Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Ashley Durham, and I am the president at Skyline Bookkeeping. What I'll be guiding you through today is how to fill out the FTE summary workbook that we have created. This is in conjunction with the expense tracker spreadsheet that you need to be recording in order to qualify for the PPP loan forgiveness. So this is in addition to meeting the payroll cost test for PPP loan forgiveness. You must also meet the headcount test. So basically what this means is when you initially applied for your loan, more than likely you had to provide a bunch of information on how many employees you had, what their total payroll cost was in certain time frames. So basically what we're doing now is we're making sure that we have the same amount of people, full-time equivalent employees, during the covered period in which we're going to ask for loan forgiveness. So in order to fill out this spreadsheet, you do need some payroll information for a couple different time periods. So you're going to need payroll information for the 8-week time period in which you must spend the PPP loan proceeds. So that's going to be called the covered period. The second time frame is from February 15th, 2019 through June 30th, 2019. And the third is from January 1st, 2020 through February 29th, 2020. So then when you have that information, we're going to go back to that spreadsheet and make sure that we're entering in that information. You're only able to enter in information into the highlighted portions of this spreadsheet. Everything else is password protected in order to protect the formulas in the cells. So once I have all of my payroll information in front of me, I want to go ahead and enter in my company name. I just have an example here, XYZ Company. And then I want to make sure I enter in the total amount of the loan I received. For example, I'm saying that I received $50,000 in PPP funds. Next, I want to get my loan documents and make sure that I'm recording the date loan. Basically, this is the disbursement date. So you'll find this information on your loan origination documents. So I'm saying my loan was on 5/12 of 20. The spreadsheet will automatically calculate what that 8-week time period is. So now you know exactly what dates you need to be looking for as far as your payroll reporting. I'm not going to go into detail here until we get the information entered into these different tabs. So the first tab that I want to cover is this covered period. So this tab is basically where we're going to record how many employees that we had during the 8 weeks, whether they be full-time or part-time. So we'll start off at the top. How many employees do we have in this time frame, week 1, that are working more than 30 hours per week? I've also went ahead and put little instructional boxes next to certain cells, so that way it can provide you guys with a little additional instruction on certain cells. So the cover period again is 8 weeks from the PPP loan proceeds, the date they were received. And then for full-time employees, we want to enter the total number of employees, not hours, working for any employees that are working more than 30 hours in a particular week. So let's say I have, 2 employees during this time period that are working full-time. I want to enter in that information here. For any employees that are working less than 30 hours a week, I want to enter in their hours by the week, not the total amount of employees. So this is important. It's a little top here. So I want to enter in the amount of the employee hours right here. So let's say if I have an employee that's working 28 hours that week. I want to enter in that information there. And then my second employee, let's say they only worked 3 hours that week. You can see that it's calculating how many employees by head count that we had at full time. So this is really important to make sure that you're entering in the amount of employees, so physical bodies that you have that are working full time, and then how many employees that you have listed out by hours, because this is how this spreadsheet is going to be calculated. So each week that you have a payroll or you have, I should say that you have employees, you need to be calculating how many employees that you have on a full-time basis. And then if they're not full-time, how many hours did they work within that week? So by the 8-week period, we're actually able to determine if we had the same headcount as prior periods. If you have any questions on this spreadsheet, I know it can be a bit confusing if you're not, spreadsheet savvy. More than likely, if you're a client, we've already been taking care of this for you. But if you're doing this yourself and you're finding this is a little bit frustrating, or you just need some clarification, please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to provide additional instruction on how to fill out this spreadsheet, since it is particular to your business. The next tab here is I need to record my full-time employee equivalents for this time period. So again, you have to have the payroll reports in front of you from 2/15/2019 through 6/30/2000. So it's the same format as the last tab. So we're entering in how many employees that we had during this time frame. So did I have 2 employees, 4 employees at full time? And then again, how many hours, if they were part-time, did each employee work during that time frame? So it's by employee if they worked part-time. So in this case, from February 15th through February 28th, I'm going to say I had 2 employees here. And then I also had 1 part-time employee who worked 28 hours and another that worked 2 hours that week. So again, you can see that these calculations are running up here. That will give you a head count on how many full-time employees that you had. So you want to do that for each of these time frames. Again, they're located up here. The only confusing part about this specific tab is that there are only 2 weeks that we need to calculate as far as February 15th through February 28th. So if you need additional assistance on calculating that, please feel free to reach out to our office and we'll assist you with that. The next and final tab is the full-time equivalents employees for the time period 1/1 of 20 through 2/29 of 20. So again, it's that same concept. We're entering in how many employees that we had during these specific time frames that worked more than 30 hours a week. And this also would equal out to be 120 hours a month at least to qualify for full-time. And then if you didn't have, full-time employees, how many employees did you have working part-time? And if so, if they were working part-time, how many hours did they work per employee during these time frames? So make sure you list that out individually by employee. So in this time frame, I'm just going to say that I had 2 employees that worked more than 30 hours per week. And then I also had 2 employees, one that worked 28 hours and another that worked 2 hours. And I entered that information in for each time period. So I went ahead and entered in this information. So now I've completed every single tab for the covered period, for, if I had filled in this information, for this time period as well as this time period. So I can go back to my summary and I can see here that during the covered period, I had 2.95 employees that qualified for that full-time equivalent. And then during these other periods, I had 2.10, 2.25 during these time periods. So basically, we just want to have the same, if not more than the equivalent here. So during the cover period. So if you had, 2 employees during this time, 2 here, and then during the covered period, we still had 2, we qualify for loan forgiveness. If you only had 1 employee during the covered period and you had more employees during the time periods listed below, you wouldn't qualify for 100% loan forgiveness. So that is something that you need to make sure that you're recording. So at the end of this time period, you're not, confused when, the SBA lender says that you don't qualify for 100% loan forgiveness. Again, this spreadsheet can be a little confusing. I tried to make sure that, I put as many instructions as possible in it, but if you need additional clarification, again, please make sure that you reach out to our office. Our info is located right here. You can schedule a consultation online, and we can guide you through on how to complete this spreadsheet. One other thing to notate that this spreadsheet was developed by me based on rules in effect at the time I developed this. Uh, this in no way, guarantees forgiveness of your PPP loan, and you should not, assume so. So I would definitely consult with your CPA, tax attorney, or your banking lender to make sure that there's no further clarification on the rules surrounding the PPP loans, because again, this was created at the time of a time in effect at the time of development. So just make sure that you're, consulting with your CPA and tax attorney. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and I hope that, this spreadsheet was informative and helpful.